Dentistry and General Radio Network presents
the Independent Dental Practice Podcast with Dr. Sonny Spera. In this episode,
today our guest in the Independent Dental Practice is Dr. Van Ornstein. Van is a pediatric dentist in the Boston area. We're going to talk about his journey, what brought him to dentistry. As he says, it was an epiphany that he had, and he's been East Coast and West Coast. So listen up, enjoy the show. This is part one of our conversation with Dr. Van Orenstein. If you like it, click like, subscribe, share it with your friends. If you don't like it, well, please contact me, sonnyspera@gmail.com, or independentdentalpractice@gmail.com. Or if you're a texter or you want to call, 607-624-2962. Enjoy the episode, everybody.
Dr. Van Ornstein, Part 1, My Journey in Dentistry, a conversation with Dr. Sonny Spera.
Welcome to the Independent Dental Practice Podcast. Dr. Sonny Spera. Today, my guest, Dr. Van Ornstein. Let me give you a little bit of his background, and we're going to dive right in. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to talk about his journey and his journey out of insurance coverage, meaning out of network, and some of the leadership skills he thinks are essential into running and maintaining a great practice. So can't wait to talk to him. Dr. Van Ornstein is a board-certified pediatric dentist and the founder of Newton Pediatric Dentistry and Orthodontics, which he opened in 2013. He was born and raised in the Boston area and currently resides there with his wife and 3 boys. So originally his plan was to be a high school history teacher until an epiphany brought his attention to dentistry. I like that. I like epiphanies. He attended dental school at the University of Penn School of Dental Medicine and completed his pediatric dentistry at UCLA. Sure, UCLA is right around the corner from Philly. Why not? He is a founding member of the Alliance for Independent Dentists, sits on the board and serves as secretary. He has a passionate belief that dentistry does an important service for our local communities, and keeping dentistry independent is crucial to keeping our profession running at such a high standard of care for our patients and for the next generation of dental professionals. I'm glad you said that. I'm really glad you added that portion. Not just standard of care for patient, but a standard of care for the dental professionals that will succeed us. So Van, hey, welcome to the show, man.
It's great to be here. Can I just say I've been a fan. I've listened to probably every single one of your podcasts. I'm a super fan a little bit, but I just think you also do a wonderful thing for our community. And I really appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
My pleasure. All right. So let's get right into it. First of all, because you said it was an epiphany, but why dentistry? Why'd you go into it?
So why dentistry?
Yeah.
So what I'm really happy to say is the moment I had that epiphany, I have never regretted it. I've never looked back. So I'm so happy I did have this epiphany. I was a high school, I was a history major in college, and I moved to California to get my teaching credential. I was a waiter at Legal Seafood here in Boston, and I said, I can be a waiter anywhere.
Which one?
The one in the Prudential building.
Okay.
So this was one of basically my first job after college. I was serving lobsters and clams and the whole clam bake situation. So I had this woman in my table who's from San Diego, and you need to move to San Diego. You would love it. She just said it fits your personality. So I don't know what I did. I packed my car, went by myself, put all my belongings. I don't know. I guess I'm easily influenced or something. I just knew that this wasn't the end of me. I said I could get my teaching credential for history in Boston, or I could do it in San Diego, California. So I moved to the farthest city possible in America that I could move to, and went to become a history teacher. So I move out there, and all I knew is I wasn't going to wait tables. So I applied to every single job possible. Don't get any traction anywhere. So I go back to waiting tables, don't know what's happening. Became very good friends with someone in medical school, and he was in his medical residency. He was going to do plastic surgery out there in San Diego, and he says all of his friends wish they were dentists. And I'm like, are you crazy? You're from Southern California. You're a plastic surgeon. You seem like you have the most amazing thing, and you wish you were a dentist. And I was blown away by that comment. Doesn't make any sense to me as someone who knows nothing about the field of oral health, but okay. He says, oh yeah, it's so much better. And me and him became friends because we both bought surfboards, right? We didn't know anyone else in San Diego. So we buy surfboards. We're hanging out there on the water. And I started saying, I could never be a dentist because I'm not smart enough. You have to be really smart to go to dental school or medical school. And he just looked at me. He's like, what are you talking about? You're smarter than most of my friends at medical school. And I look at him, I go, no, I can't do science. And he just, you are really smart. You can go to dental school. And I started picturing what my life was going to be like as a dentist. I was picturing a family. I was picturing my patients. I was picturing a business and giving back. I went through an entire career and I retired a really happy person. I had this daydream on a surfboard after talking to my friend, Dr. Dave. Credit to you, Dr. Dave. You changed my life. And I was like, I need to be a dentist. It was an epiphany. I needed to be a dentist. And from that moment on, I've never regretted that decision once. And I feel lucky. I think that if anyone in their life has the opportunity to know exactly what they want to do, it's probably one of the biggest blessings you can have.
So I think the moral of the story here is get a surfboard, go hang out on the water, and all of a sudden shit just comes to you.
Just do it. I don't know what the moral story is, but I feel blessed.
Yeah, but you know what? You described it beautifully, right? I could almost see myself doing what you just talked about. Okay. So now do you have to take some more undergraduate courses to get into dental school?
Oh yeah, I was the smartest guy in the world at University of Vermont. I figured out a way to never take a science class. So smart. I figured out that I broke the system. And so I had to go back. So this was in, I believe, August, I made this decision. September 1st, I'm taking biochemistry, and I took 3 years of sciences at that point. So I went to college again.
You went for 3 years, or you did it all in 1 year?
No, I didn't. 3 years. I took biochem, physics, all the undergrad courses. I didn't take one of them, and I didn't take one prerequisite. So it took me a few years.
So you did 3 more years of undergrad.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Now, were you teaching or working at the time?
I was just what I said I would never do. I went back to wait tables. So I was going to school in the morning and waiting tables at night.
Where was this? Were you in Beck, Vermont, or did you stay in San Diego?
San Diego. I went to University of California, San Diego, which is a very rigorous school.
UC San Diego, which I like in the tournament, by the way. But go ahead.
And I haven't been following. But I was a good student, but never a great student. But once I figured out what I wanted to do, I turned into a great student.
That's so cool. And at this point, though, after 3 years, have you not fallen in love with the West Coast?
Oh, yeah. San Diego's the best.
Okay. But then you go to dental school at Penn, so you climb all the way back to the East Coast. What did that look like? Did you have a hard time with your DATs? Or because clearly you have now clarity and focus and purpose, right? So you are on a mission. And you're focused, you're driven. So the rest of it, I'm assuming, just fell into place, DATs, boom. How many choices of dental schools did you go for?
I mean, I think I was an untraditional, this is not the typical story that people hear when they
first time I've ever heard it, by the way. And I've interviewed a lot of people,
I just think that there's room for other people. You just don't have to be a bio major. You don't have to be like the same track. And I did get good scores on my DAT. I did get good grades because I was so driven. At that point, nothing could have held me back because I'm 4 years behind everybody else. And I had no choice. I made this commitment.
You don't have a plan B. You're all in for plan A.
Yeah. So it was different. I just felt like I was 4 years older than everybody else in my situation. And so I was in a bit of a different.
Now, I don't know you that well, but I'm going to guess that's the theme of your life. When you got your plan A, you go for it and you're all in. So you apply. What other dental schools were you considering besides Penn?
UOP. When you're in California, UOP is a very popular school because it's 3 years. And for a lot of the dentists tell you, you don't need 4 years, just get out. You get more clinical work at UOP. And it was a 3-year dental school. And I got to know Dr. Yarbrough and some of the faculty there. And I knew just a bunch of people in the California area. But for me, the reason I wanted to go to Penn because I wanted to have the option to specialize. At that point, I had no idea where I wanted to go. And I really wanted to have the most ability to choose. And I think that's why I made the decision to come back east and go to Penn.
Okay. So you're in Penn, and specialty then was high on your list. Did you have any preconceived notion before which one you were going to lean towards, or what did you do? Did you let them talk?
I knew I wasn't going to do pediatrics. I just knew I was not going to work with kids because I was going to be a teacher. And then once that plan went out of the way to not be a teacher, I was like, all right, now pediatrics is off the table.
Wow. Because for me, I've always had an interest in kids. And I guess to me, I scratched that itch by coaching. Like I continue to coach to this day. Like I got practice later today for baseball, and I help with the JVs at our high school, and I love it. So you felt, all right, I'm teaching, I'm out of that. All right, but you go into pediatrics. Now, what's that look like? How'd you get to California? What was your choices?
Well, just to say what happened, as soon as I started in pedo clinic, I knew I had no choice. It was like so much fun. I was so impressed by the pediatric dentists in Penn, and they were my role models, and what they were doing is the psychology of it. I was like, I have to do that. It was my calling. Again, boom, another epiphany. It's like these things, sometimes you don't choose them. It's just, that's your life. It's
Okay.
which way to go.
So pediatrics, you're diving in. Okay. And now you're going back to
Back
UCLA.
to UCLA.
Okay. All right. So you graduate. Now what? Why did you come back to Boston?
Yeah, these are life's hard decisions, right? Where you're gonna plant your seed and grow. And those are my two favorite places, right? I love Southern California and I love the Boston area. I'm just really drawn. And what I found when I was on the East Coast was a ton of friends, ton of relationships. Things just kept happening for me there. And what I found was on the West Coast was, yeah, I still did well, but I never had the relationships that I was able to develop on the East Coast. And so I knew that I was meant to come back East.
Okay. So you graduate. What do? You go work for somebody? What happens?
I go work for someone. So I just started cold calling. Hi, my name is Dr. Van Orenstein. I'd love to work at your office. I sent out resumes and I got 2 different jobs, working part-time at 2 different places in large.
So wait. So just basically you had a list of pediatric dentists in the greater Boston area and bam, you're just cold calling them.
Yes.
That's awesome. So many people are afraid to do that. How many rejections did you get or not even an answer or they won't even pick up the phone?
No rejections. Everyone was really kind. This
Really?
is one thing that like I found in
Unheard
my
of.
life is that people are really nice.
That's
People
unheard
are
of.
people are really good. I'm nice. Even if someone calls my office and they tell me they're looking for a job, I talk to that person and I spend time with them because people are really good. And so I had a great experience just meeting people that way.
Let me tell you, that is not the norm. Most people looking for, now this is not pediatrics though. I think you guys are all sunshine and rainbows, it must be. But in the general practice world, the average, like literally rejection rate is like 80 to 90%. I've had 2 or 3 people in there. I sent out 300 resumes. I stopped and knocked on 40 doors. 2 people spoke to me. One person was intentional. The other one, I just caught him because he was at the front desk. It's like time after time again, what I was going to try to prove a point was don't let failure knock you down. In your case, you were welcomed with open arms by a lot of people. God bless. So you find 2 opportunities. Were they similar or were they different? Talk about what you went into.
They were similar in the fact that the Boston area seemed to be controlled by people who have powerhouse practices for about 30 years. And everybody who comes into town works for one of these 4 or 5 practices.
Okay.
And
So these are preeminent pediatric dental practices.
yes.
Okay.
And
Royalty, we'll call them.
And I loved my experience. I learned a lot. They gave me a chance to come in as a new dentist and like really learn, and they were respectful and they were good. It wasn't perfect, but I think everyone should really have that experience I think coming out and becoming a dentist, starting your own practice right away is really tough.
Were they helpful mentorship wise?
Yeah. One had a son who was coming to become a dentist, and so he knew that his son was coming in. The other practice, they were really mentors, and they really wanted me to grow within the practice.
Okay, so you're in it, and I know you got to be focusing on the actual dentistry part because there's so much of us that we have the same thing. When did you start to look at the business of the dentistry?
Like
You guys are listening to it, can't see this huge smile that came across Van's face.
like 3 years after I bought my practice, I'm like, I need to learn about business. We really don't know anything. It's so embarrassing how little we know about
It's true.
Fundamentals.
And we almost have no interest in it, right? We want to just be a great dentist, build great relationships like you referred to in your personal life. Now you want those in your professional life, et cetera. So let's just one other detail though. You said you're married, you got 3 kids. At what point did some of these things happen? When did you get married? When did you start having kids?
In like 2013, 2014, around that time.
Oh, your own practice. Okay. So you're a young guy, right? Single, and you're in an associateship. Okay. So you started your own in 2013. How many years were you an associate?
So I was 3 years as an associate, and I really I thought I was going to stay with one of those practices, but I think there was 5 partners in front of me.
Gotcha.
And I would have been the 6th partner. And so if you know my personality at all, I'm excited and I push and I try to
You're all in, man. I told you, you're all in.
I try to enact, I'm all in and I'm so excited about this. And I live like a 10 out of 10. And what I found is that that doesn't work when you're six because one has to okay it and then two has to okay it. And
Yeah.
by the time it gets to you, it doesn't.
You got to play politics to get things done.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And this is the things you learn about yourself, right? Is that I probably needed to start my own practice.
Okay. So you're looking at starting your own practice. Did you tell either of the docs that you're working for, listen, I'm looking at doing my own thing? Because I'm sure the reactions were different. So tell me.
Yeah. The first practice I only lasted at a year because the other one wanted me to come on full time. So at that point, I was really all with one other practice.
Okay. All right.
And they actually thought that maybe I could start a practice as part of their practice. I think they
Like
knew
a
that
satellite?
yeah, like a satellite. I don't think they wanted me to leave. I think that they saw potential there.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a smart business move, right?
Yeah.
You got a successful practice, you got a guy in that you've worked with and trained, and you could call it grooming, whatever you want to say, but you have a certain affiliation and understanding that you can trust your work and you can trust their work. Now, okay, why don't we just grow this pie by
Yeah.
adding another location?
I would
we
do
support
that.
it. Yeah.
I would do that. Like I would love if an associate came on and like we could do something together. Your relationships are hard. It's hard to find like close-knit relationships. So when you have it, you want to foster them.
And they got 3 years into it, right? So they're like, okay. So what caused you to change from I'll do this with you guys to, yeah, I'm doing this by myself? Another
I just think-
epiphany?
No, yeah. I think this was that there was just too many cooks in the kitchen
Sure.
kind of thing. And I like all of those people, but it was just for me, it was just when I started to really push, right, press the buttons that would either work or not work, what I was finding is that they probably didn't work. This wasn't the match that was going to work.
So how did you tell them that what you were going to do? And how and when did you tell them?
All right, we're getting into it. So I think they offered me to become a partner in their practice, and I was like, I don't see that. I just don't see it. And then we started talking about like a satellite location. And then I think they were like, listen, if you're not going to become a partner, it's probably not. I think they wanted that was their business model, I think, was
Sure.
adding more partners to like transition out.
Yeah.
So I think it was an amicable
Kind of ladder. You ladder thing.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like
A friend of mine did that in private practice right down the road. Yeah.
yeah, again, like you're like, how'd you learn about business? I don't know. That sounds like a good plan to me. You only learn by doing it. And so that's really what they were doing, I think. And so we just
So literally it's mutual then,
huh?
right? Which is unusual, right? Usually it's you're not the right fit, you're out, or you're like, I want to do my own thing. We want you here. 30 days, pack your stuff, right? So what does that look like? I'm going to ask you, because I know for me, when I was an associate, when I bought my practice, when you decided I'm going to open my own practice, there's usually a shift in your mindset. When did you feel that happening?
So I'm in Newton Pediatric Dentistry right now. It's a town of 100,000 people.
Right
Sorry,
by,
85,000 people.
Boston College.
It's huge. It's BC. Yes, and it's just it's like the biggest suburb outside of Boston. And there was no Newton Pediatric Dentistry, and I knew someone else was going to open up Newton Pediatric Dentistry, and so I was like, once I realized that that's what I had to do because there was a void, there was like a vacuum. I was like all in, and so I was
all
just like,
in.
focused.
That's going to be your middle name, Van All In Ornstein, baby. I love it. But you have enough. So what's really smart though to me is location. And everybody will tell you, if you're a good dentist, they'll find you behind the supermarket if you want to go park your office there. You don't have. No, I think location is very helpful. I really do. So you start out from scratch. How about your team? What does that look like when you start?
Yeah, it was my office manager was my assistant. It was the two of us, right?
Yeah.
Fast forward to right now when I have 18 employees. They don't know that I did all the sterilization, I did all the assisting, I did all the hygiene, I sent out all the bills, I did all the ordering. When you have, a bunch of different jobs in an office, you're just doing every single job, and it was phenomenal. Like you couldn't ask for a better preparation or becoming a leader is that you've done everybody else's job.
That's the McDonald's model. You can't buy a McDonald's unless you've worked every job in the joint.
It makes perfect sense, right?
It does. Like, you don't have to necessarily have cancer to understand people with cancer. People use that argument. You're not compassionate with patients, but if you have the ability to perform those tasks and perform all the parts to it, you have a deeper understanding of what happens. And you also know what to check and look for when you want to step back and start to manage some of that.
How many dentists don't know how to work an autoclave?
Yo, let me put my hand up. Hold on.
I know. It's like one of mine set on fire, and it was like nice to be able. I had to change spark plugs in an autoclave. I think it's cool to be able to have done everything. And as a side note, I actually think there's two things. One is waiting tables. I would basically, if someone said they were a server at a restaurant, I would put them way up in my book. And being an athlete, someone who's played on competitive sports teams, it's like none of these things have anything to do with being a dentist or being a business owner, but it has everything to do with it, right? These other attributes that you bring.
All right. I'm going to wrap up part one right here. That's a great place to stop. I couldn't agree with you more, by the way. I think people that are in the service industry, especially waitresses, I think receptionists in hotels, people that have to interact with the public all the time, have a certain skill set. Bartenders, they have a certain skill set. And I also think athletes, because you're speaking my language now, man, I think athletes are wired differently. So I'm 100% on that case. So we're going to wrap up part one, Dr. Van Ornstein, and we're going to come back and we're going to cover part two, which will be the deeper dive into owning your own practice and going out of network and then being a leader.
This has been a production of Dentistry in General Radio Network. Visit our website, dentistryingeneral.com, to join engaging clinical and business conversations, explore our dental podcasts, and stay updated on our upcoming live events.